Update, I was kicked out by my stepdad at 16, and I've been surviving on my own ever since. Now, my mom is finally back from her job abroad, and I had to tell her everything. You won't believe how she reacted when she learned the full story. Part 2, my mom returned from her work trip abroad last week. I was nervous about facing her, but I was also looking forward to finally explaining everything that had happened with Mark. However, things didn't go as I had hoped. The day after she got back, I had a call from her. Her voice was cold and angry, nothing like the warm, loving tone I was used to. She demanded to know if it was true that I had stolen money from Mark and run away. I was shocked and confused, my mind raced trying to understand where this accusation was coming from. I tried to explain what really happened, how Mark had been verbally abusive, how he had threatened to kick me out, and how I'd left for my own safety and mental health. I told her about the incident with the box of my belongings, about how Mark had made my life miserable every day she was gone. But my mom wouldn't listen. She kept insisting that Mark had shown her evidence of my theft. When I asked what evidence, she was vague, saying something about missing cash and suspicious bank transactions. I told her it was all lies, that I had never stolen anything in my life. I reminded her of how I'd always been honest with her, how I'd worked hard at my part-time job to contribute to the household. But it seemed like her mind was already made up. I begged her to meet me in person so we could talk face to face. After some persuasion, she agreed, but when we met at a local cafe, Mark was with her. The moment I saw him, my heart sank. He had a sorrowful expression on his face, but I could see the triumphant glint in his eyes. Mark put on a show of being concerned and disappointed in me. He spun a tale about how he had tried his best to take care of me while my mom was away, but that I had become rebellious and started stealing money to fund a party lifestyle. He talked about how he'd noticed cash missing from his wallet and how he'd seen suspicious withdrawals from their joint account. I was floored. Every word out of his mouth was a lie, but he told it so convincingly. He even had fake receipts and bank statements that he claimed proved I'd been taking money. I don't know how he fabricated them, but they looked real enough to fool my mom. He talked about how he'd tried to confront me about it, but I had run away instead of facing the consequences. I tried desperately to defend myself, to tell my side of the story. I explained how I'd been working extra shifts to support myself, how I'd been struggling to make ends meet in my small apartment. I told them about the nights I'd gone to bed hungry because I couldn't afford both food and rent. I pleaded with my mom to remember how I'd always been responsible with money, how I'd never given her any reason to doubt me before. But Mark had clearly been working on my mom for weeks before she returned. He had poisoned her against me, making her believe I was a troubled, ungrateful kid who had taken advantage of her absence. He painted himself as the victim, a concerned stepfather who had only wanted to help his wayward stepson. The worst part was seeing the look of disappointment and anger in my mom's eyes. She told me she couldn't believe I would do this to her, that she had trusted me to behave while she was gone. When I tried to explain about Mark's behavior, she accused me of trying to shift blame and making up lies about my caring stepfather. "How could you do this to us?" she asked, her voice breaking. "We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us?" Her words cut deep, each one feeling like a physical blow. I couldn't understand how she could believe Mark over me, her own son. The meeting ended with my mom telling me she needed time to think about what to do next. She said she couldn't have me back in the house if she couldn't trust me. As they left the cafe, I saw Mark put his arm around my mom's shoulders, comforting her. The sight made me feel sick. Over the next few days, I tried repeatedly to reach out to my mom to get her to listen to me without Mark's influence, but she either ignored my calls or replied with short, cold messages telling me to stop lying and take responsibility for my actions. I was desperate. I reached out to a few of my mom's friends, hoping they might be able to talk some sense into her, but it seemed Mark had gotten to them too. They all told me how disappointed they were in me, how they couldn't believe I would steal from my own family. Eventually, my mom sent me a long text message saying she had decided it was best if I didn't come back home. She said she was deeply disappointed in me and that she needed time to process everything. She told me not to contact her for a while. I was devastated. Not only had I lost my home, but I had also lost my mom, the one person I thought would always be on my side. Mark had managed to manipulate her completely, turning her against her own son. The next few weeks were a blur. I threw myself into work and school, trying to keep my mind off the gaping hole in my life where my family used to be. I had trouble sleeping, often lying awake at night replaying the conversations in my head, wondering what I could have said differently to make my mom believe me. My grades started to slip again, and I was at risk of not graduating. It took a concerned teacher pulling me aside to snap me out of my funk. She noticed the changes in me and asked what was wrong. After some hesitation, I told her everything. To my surprise, she believed me. She helped me get in touch with a school counselor and a social worker who could provide me with resources and support. With their help, I was able to get back on track with my studies and even secure some additional financial aid to help with my living expenses. Now I'm trying to figure out my next steps. I'm still in my small apartment, working as much as I can to support myself. I've reached out to a few trusted teachers at school who have been supportive and are helping me navigate finishing high school as an independent student. I'm hurt, angry, and scared about the future. The betrayal by my mom stings deeply, and there are days when the loneliness feels overwhelming. But I'm also determined to prove Mark wrong and show my mom the truth someday. I don't know if our relationship will ever be the same, but I haven't given up hope entirely. For now, I'm focusing on graduating high school and planning for college. It won't be easy, but I'm determined to build a better life for myself, with or without my family's support. Thank you all for your support of my original post. If anyone has advice on how to move forward from here, I'd appreciate it. How do I heal from this betrayal? How do I build a life for myself when I feel so alone? Any words of wisdom would be welcome.